So I'm really excited today because I'm talking to a lovely lady called Beverly, who is a dog trainer who I have been working with for a while now. And we're talking about something that came up in one of our conversations, which is attachment theory and dogs. And Beverly's going to tell us a lot more about that, but it's a topic that I'm really interested in because I've looked at it for humans. And I obviously have a dog and love writing and learning more about dogs. And when Beverly told me about it, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've got to go and talk to her. So I'm really excited about this conversation. So, Beverly, can you tell us about you and what you do?
Absolutely. First of all, thanks, Rachel, for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Yes, I am a dog trainer in the US. I work with dogs who have separation related issues. And I've always been fascinated by dog behavior. It's been very interesting to me. I love, and I especially have always been curious about when you're not even feeding a dog, a stray dog that comes up to you, they tend to have this sort of immediate attachment that goes on if they're friendly, and if they're comfortable with you. So in addition to that, I wound up the very first dog I got as an adult had really severe separation anxiety, and I was in my 20s, and that was a steep learning curve for me. So I now, as a result of that experience, it was not a very fun experience, I have to say, but full of lots of love. I focus entirely on helping dogs with separation related issues and distress. And really supporting, a big part of that is supporting the people who live with them.
Mhm.
And to do that, I actually started in after graduating from high school. I got a BA in psychology. I then later in life, after some detours into other kinds of things, wound up getting my certification as a dog training professional. CPDTKA is what I have. And also because of my interest in separation anxiety, the whole reason I got the CPDT, and frankly, the whole reason I became a dog trainer, was to address separation related issues. And so I went and got a certification from from Melina DeMartini's group. And that certification is called a CSAT, or Certified Separation Anxiety Trainer. So that's sort of how I got here, and I built my practice around helping dogs feel safe when alone, and supporting those people as they are living with those dogs who need to learn that.
Mhm. Thanks so much for sharing. And it's really, I think it's really interesting that you've got the psychology background as well. I know it was a while ago that you were at uni. No offence.
Yes, yes.
We're both the same
A
age, so we're
long
allowed to
time
say
ago, yes.
that. But it must be interesting to kind of come across things that you probably may have touched on at uni, and then actually look at it from a dog's perspective, and also from a pet parent's perspective as well. So, which is why, again, I'm really, really interested in having this conversation with you. So, can you tell us a little bit about attachment theory and
Yeah.
the principles of it?
Yeah, the basics are it was originally a theory in psychology that came up around human attachment to other humans, and so it's about how humans form bonds for safety.
Yeah.
And so basically, the way I'm talking about it today is we're talking about secure attachment versus insecure attachment.
Mhm.
So, secure attachment it means like a consistent, responsive caregiving. And as children, we learn this from interacting with our caregivers. And so it's, to the extent that our caregivers can be consistent and responsive, they are, but not in an overly responsive way. That's what we're looking at to build secure attachments. One of
Mhm.
the ways they tested this is from this little test in psychology and research that they called the what was that? Strange environment. Well, SST, strange situation test. There it
Yeah.
is. And they were exploring, they basically put, dyads, I think a caregiver and a child, into a strange environment, and looked at how often that child was coming back to do check-ins. And so with their secure attachment figure, or their secure base, as some people call that, and how comfortable that child was at actually exploring a new environment. and sort of how they interacted with that. An insecure attachment might look like often has the child might have a lot of fear or uncertainty. They may not venture very far away from their care, their caregiver, or they may just be withdrawn. So those are all kinds of things that look like insecure attachment. Turns out someone very bright did the study to actually see if dogs were attaching with humans in the same way, and it turns out that dogs actually do attach in many of the same ways that to humans that children do.
Mm-hmm. So what does this mean then for us? And because ultimately we want our dogs to be happy, to feel loved, to feel cherished, and all those things. And I'm guessing from my limited knowledge that we want them to have that secure attachment, don't we?
Yeah. So with dogs, they are attaching in the similar ways that human children attach to caregivers. They are forming emotional attachments with us. And they're basically just like kids. And all of this came up basically for me, applying this attachment theory information or looking through this attachment theory lens when I attended recently, this spring, a conference with Daniel Mills, who's a researcher in the UK. He I think is a vet behaviorist, so he's a veterinarian, but who does a lot of research. He's out of Lincoln. University of Lincoln, I believe. And he is, it was just such a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, dogs attach the same way as humans do. And there's definite things we can do, just like we can do with children. When there's a dysfunction there, we can do the same thing with our dogs to sort of help them learn to be safe. And so when we're working with separation issues, we are really looking for those guardians of those dogs with separation related problems to become that secure base, to become that place that the dog can come to and go out and explore the world, even if the world is just your house, or if the world is larger than that for that dog, and hopefully it is larger than that. But and come back and check in and go, oh, are we okay? And you as your dog's secure attachment figure can say, yeah, we're fine, this is great, and they can go out and look some more. And so we're really looking. We have this opportunity, this little sliver of well, it's not a sliver. It's actually probably a pretty big wide swath of an opportunity to use our position as a secure caregiver to actually help our dogs feel more safe and secure. And so one of the things that I hear often as a separation anxiety specialist is people are like, oh, my dog's too attached, I can't leave. And the idea is actually, no, they're not too attached. They're insecurely attached. Not your not your fault. I don't want to blame you for this, but you do have an opportunity to behave differently so that they can be more securely attached. And so we're looking for secure attachments versus insecure attachments. So our reactions shape our dog's emotional safety, and calm, predictable responses from us can build trust with our dogs.
So what would you say the signs are of secure attachment, and what are the signs of insecure attachment? What kind of things would we be looking for?
Yeah. With secure attachment, we're really looking for just like that strange situation test that they did the original research with children and with dogs. They have adapted that to use with dogs now. Is a dog who is when something happens, they might look to you to see what's the response, or they're like, oh, I see it. So in my work, I've sort of talk about oh versus oh my God. Like we expect so it's oh versus OMG. So dogs are gonna see things, and we expect them or hear things. They're gonna interact with their world and know things are going on. But what we're looking for is usually an oh response versus a panic. And so what we're looking for a secure attachment is that oh response, that this is not anything to be concerned about. I notice that it's happening, and I can take that information in and remain relatively calm and okay. Versus insecure is often when the dog won't, just clings and can't go away. And, clinging by itself is not a separation related behavior, by the way. A lot of dogs do like to follow their owners or their guardians around. And that's totally fine. But we're looking for dogs who literally have a very hard time functioning away from that secure attachment figure.
Yeah.
So insecure attachment looks like, this reactivity of, that, oh my God response. Oh, there's a dog coming. Ah, or there's a person coming. Ah, in separation anxiety or separation related issues, it's, oh my gosh, I see you're leaving. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Kinds of responses. Or after you've left, in separation related behaviors, it looks like, that real panic kind of, or even that frustrated kind of digging at the door, or, those destructive behaviors, those vocalizations, sometimes even inappropriate elimination. So those kinds of things would be some signs of an insecure attachment being functioning there.
Okay. And is there anything that we can do as guardians if we do have a dog with insecure attachment to help them feel more secure?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So we really start looking at the way you're interacting with your dog as it's an important relationship in your life. We bring these dogs into our lives to have a really great relationship with them. We want that happy little face when we come home. We want that really close time. So some of the things that we can do is don't blame yourself for this insecure, if they're having trouble. Please don't blame yourself. This is not your fault. Both humans and dogs bring a learning history and their own attachment baggage, frankly, into their relationships. And so, if you've never heard of this before, please don't blame yourself. But there's things you can do differently. So what some of those things are, dogs learn through social facilitation, just like children do. So some of the things is, if you see something startling, actually regulate your own emotions, have your own oh versus oh my God response. So if here in the US we just finished with the 4th of July, lots of fireworks. If you jump and scream every time there's fireworks, your dog is probably going to think this is something scary that's happening, or, at least get a little too excited about stuff. So if your dog hears a firework, instead of jumping and screaming or like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, I can't believe this is happening. You say to your dog, yeah, I heard that, no big deal. And redirect and go do something else together. That's a great example of things you can do. A shy dog, this is outside of separation anxiety, but a shy dog that gets barked at, sometimes our response can be, oh my gosh, baby, it's okay. I know that rude dog barked at you, and you can scoop them up and hold them close and tell them, that bad dog, I can't believe how bad that dog was. Or some of us, I've certainly been guilty of this sometimes, is yell at the other person like, hey, get your dog away from me or whatever. But all of that emotional content is something, or that emotional reaction is something your dog is observing. And it can be that they think, oh my gosh, this is what we do when we see, when another dog barks at us. And so we can instead just say, yep, I heard that, and just redirect and calmly move away. So trying to keep your emotions calm and regulated in situations where there may be some concern, or your dog is experiencing some concern. I don't want you to ignore the situation, because we're sort of gaslighting. This is a whole different thing, but we can, we're telling the dog there's nothing to be concerned about. Nope, I saw it too. Yep, I see that. And we're going to go over here and do this other thing. And so that's sort of what we're looking for. Here, a human example of this is, I'm the worst at this. I don't have kids. And when when I'm around small children who are just learning to walk, I'm so protective of them. Like, oh no, we can't let anything bad happen to these kids. And so a child is just learning to walk and they fall. I've done this more than once. I'm like, oh my God, poor baby, You're okay. It's okay. And I actually wind up startling the child from my response to them falling. And suddenly there's the waterworks, there's the crying, there's, which may have happened anyway, but probably I've made the situation worse by my reaction to it. So I remember doing this with my niece and my mom, like sitting across the room, giving me the mom eye, like, don't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm supposed to be. This is fine. This is children fall. It's not a big deal. But, when you see something bad happen to someone you love, or something that you think of as not great happening to someone you love, it's pretty unusual for an adult to fall. But for a kid, that happens all the time. So just remembering to keep my response at that O level. I saw that and you're fine, versus an, oh my God. And so offer a moderated response to scary things, or to things that you think that might be scary, and don't overwhelm your dog with emotional content. And around separation related issues, that can look like your dog greets you at the door. I mean, I love my dogs greeting me at the door when I come home. That's part of why we get dogs, I think, is to have that really happy little creature who's happy to see us when we come home. And moderate that a little bit. Don't be, don't necessarily go, oh, my baby, I missed you too. This is horrible. Maybe it's just like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. This is great. Let's go do something together that's fun, and redirecting into something else. And so keeping that emotional interaction a little calmer. So another thing is take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. It's your dogs, because there's social facilitation, you can actually teach your dog to take a deep breath, and they can actually learn to calm themselves. So your reactions to stuff are contagious in some ways for your dog. And so there's really nice ways to just sort of redirect that potentially iffy situation into a no big deal situation. So one of the things I like to talk about is, oh my God, to no big deal. And so we go from that sort of panic response to, I see you're leaving and I got stuff to, I'm fine. You're all right. So they don't have to be brain dead. They don't have to be asleep. They don't have to be any of those things. We just want them to be like, sort of a head nod. Yep. I see you're going. I got this. And so that's sort of what we're looking for.
Yeah, it's that kind of steadying, isn't it? And I'm glad that you used the falling over child analogy, because I've read about that myself in reading about human attachment. I also know, though, that I have been that person who has been like, oh, that horrible dog's just barked at you, when it should be more like, and breathe and let's walk over here. And it is about, rather than having the big highs and lows and crashing and drama, we just want to have that kind of nice, even, steady keel, don't we? And
we're trying to even out those gigantic emotional peaks that can happen. And learn, we have to learn to do this as humans. And dogs have to learn to do this as creatures in the world too, is that not everything is a big deal. You can see puppies versus adult dogs having different responses because of their experiences and what they learn to do during those experiences. So humans are a big part of that for dogs who live with humans.
So I know from chatting to you that you've been bringing it into your work with your clients, your human and canine clients. So tell me about some of the work that you've been doing and the responses that you've had from both ends of the lead.
Oh, right. So yes, remember, we're always bringing our attachment theory or our attachment histories into our relationship, even with our dogs. Oh my gosh, sometimes when I hear myself talking to my dog, I can hear my mom's voice. So it's pretty funny. But we do attach in similar ways. So it's not surprising that relationship gets that voice going in me. So even the way we talk changes a little bit around other beings that we're attached to. So how we use it in separation related things is really helping, how I'm using it is helping guardians understand that part of what this dog who's having trouble and learning to be alone, this can be due to fear of being alone. It also can be due to frustration of not being able to go with you. We don't know what the history often for many of the dogs, especially if they're coming from shelters or coming from rescue situations, what their history of being alone was before. So they may have experienced some pretty scary situations. But or they may be a brand new dog who's never been left alone, who hasn't experienced that. So it's sort of more of a little bit of a blank slate, but it's something that's unusual to them to be left alone. And so whether it's fear or frustration, we can really do a lot in that leaving and in that time outside of the leaving when you're together, that can actually help that dog develop a secure attachment with you. And so some of the things, again, are just when scary things happen out in the world, having that moderated response yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's frankly just redirecting into something else. Here's a toy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I see this thing happening that you're usually a little concerned about. Here's a toy. Let's play with that. I mean, I've made toys out of just about anything. Or here's, let's go do this thing. Let's just go for a walk. This is fine. And or sit down and watch television. There's a big intersection with dogs who have separation related issues and also have noise sensitivity. And so looking at how we can, how can we help that? This, for 4th of July this year, I turned on a movie with a lot of bangs and just lots of explosions in it. Yeah. And had that running, not very loud. My dogs weren't reacting to that, but we did have some fireworks that were pretty close that got one of my dogs' attention. She's a little bit more of a nervous Nellie. And of course that can be the case with dogs. They also have some genetic predispositions sometimes that mean that they're just a little bit more anxious. So notice what things are concerning to your dog. And in this case, I noticed that the next door neighbor's fireworks were a part of what she was concerned about. And so we set up an environment that had that kind of noise in it. And we were just watching and doing normal kinds of things. And occasionally for her, when that loud sound happened, this was what we were doing when we were together. I just tossed out a kibble, one of her kibbles, and she snarfed it up and ate it. And soon those, that loud sound cue became something. She started looking for kibbles. She was like, so she wasn't going and hiding or doing anything like that. She was like, oh, this is no big deal. And I did it very nonchalantly. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, you poor baby, did you hear that sound? That was horrible. Here, let me hold you. Or here, let me give you some food. It was more like, oh yeah, I heard that too. Here you go. And and then she gets to snuffle around and find it. Yeah. So those are kinds of things that we do outside of our time apart from each other when we're running into when we're together. Yeah. And then that actually winds up influencing what their relationship is like when you're not there. They can actually model those same, or not model, probably isn't the right word. They can perform those same kinds of self-soothing, even without the presence of with you or in this case, in my dog's case, the food. So they just just becomes a little cycle that they learn to do on their own. So, so building predictability, building that responsiveness, building that trust. And our goal is really getting that secure attachment. So you wouldn't be following, I've been guilty of this. I've told people with puppies, don't ever let your puppy get out of that X pen without, to begin with, without you just following them around everywhere. It's fine for them to have access, but right after their potty, just follow them around everywhere in the house. They get a little bit of access at that point, and make sure they don't, if it looks like they're getting ready to potty, go scoop them up and take them outside. There's probably a little, there's some of us will take that advice and literally follow the dog around, like right on their heels. And some of us, and as the dog, some of us will take that advice and give a little more space. And so I realize I need to be more specific when I'm talking to my clients about what it is, what part of, where is the range of, where am I looking for you in the range of that? And yeah, you don't need to be right on that puppy's heels. You just need to be, providing some gentle guidance so that they don't get into trouble, but don't, you do want to be supervising them. But it's a little bit, you want it in a balanced kind of manner, not in a helicopter parent or a micromanaging kind of way.
When you watch TV programs about I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I saw something about guide dog puppies, and you could see them, you watch them kind of finding their way in the world, and it is about, you can watch them find their way in the world without literally being stood behind their tail. they can go and, as long, like you say, and same with children, as long as they can explore, and particularly with our dogs, they're sniffing, there's all these different senses that they've got going on. They are finding their way around the world. That's part of them developing, isn't it? And building their confidence. I know we've touched a tiny little bit on blame. You mentioned, you're not to blame if you do look into this and you find that your dog doesn't have, the attachment style that you desire, which will be secure. When you've spoken to your clients, like the humans, how do they? And you've said, I imagine you will have explained about this. How do they tend to react?
Right. When clients come to me, they're often quite desperate because they have a dog who is not doing well when they're left alone. And frankly, most of the clients are far less concerned about their material possessions that the dog might be destroying, and more concerned about the stress that this dog might be experiencing while they're away. Everyone that I work with winds up, telling me, yeah, I can buy a new couch, but I don't want my dog. I mean, they're not looking forward to buying a new couch, but they mainly just want their dog to be comfortable. And in fact, I've worked through long protocols with the folks where they just keep their their destroyed couch or whatever, or their scratched up door until they get to a point that they're really comfortable with what's going on, and then they can fix those things. But so we're not blaming the dog. The dog, the dog literally is doing the behaviors actually that may be quite destructive, that may be, and you think, oh, they know better, and what I'm asking for is not very hard. So a lot of times I have to take clients through this, like, yes, I get it that you're frustrated with your dog. It is frustrating, and it is befuddling, and it is confusing why your dog is behaving this way, because you're asking for the simplest thing, for them just to hang out at home and be okay. And so you're absolutely, I completely get it. I remember feeling that way too. And at some point I was just like, I'm desperate. I'll do anything to make sure that this dog is okay. So your dog's not to blame. Your dog is having an issue and having some trouble, and that is normal. Actually, all the things they're doing, the howling, the barking, the inappropriate elimination, even the scratching, this ripping up of the couch, those are all actually normal, within the range of normal dog behaviors. These are behaviors that ripping things up, all of those things are things that dogs do naturally. So your dog isn't broken, and B, you're not failing. You are not to blame for this behavior. It is awareness, learning how, if you didn't know about attachment theory before, but even if you do, learning to apply it to a different species is weird. I mean, a lot of it we do naturally with our own species, but learning to apply it to a different species is hard. You come with your own separation of attachment styles too. So learning about that a little bit can be very helpful, but you learning about this is an opportunity to give you the power to better support your dog. So we're not responsible for what we didn't know before. I'm sure this is a little bit of a trope or whatever, but when we know better, we do better. And so this isn't about assigning blame. This is about just doing better. Whatever happened before happened before. And honestly, if you've got a rescue dog, you don't know what happened before. And so, and you do know that dog had a relationship probably with somebody. It might've been good. It might've been bad, but now that person's not there anymore. So they're bringing all of that into your life. And that's not to say they're fantastic dogs. We just need to figure out how to make them feel comfortable, how to help them feel comfortable and secure around you. So being consistent, being present, noticing things about your dog, really being compassionate about your dog, the emotional, journey that they're going through. The same thing can happen with dogs that you've had since you picked them up from the breeder. This happens. And so this is not your fault. There's genetics, there's all kinds of things that are at play here. And a lot of them are outside of our control, but there is this slice that is in our control. And helping dogs understand that the things that they might be concerned about that are happening in their world are not that big of a deal, and giving it to them in tiny little sips and pieces, just like you wouldn't give your 5-year-old keys to the car and say, enjoy the world, child. You know, you introduce your new to you dog into new things in a moderated way that you know that they can handle and not hurt themselves or get overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
small moments of everyday, you know, every small moment of safety counts for your dogs. Every time you can help your dog feel safe enough to go out and explore, that's fine. And they can come and check back in with you and say everything's okay. So build trust. It's not just, this is about building trust. It's not just about training the behavior. So it's a fair amount that I'm doing that's a little bit more relationship. It's looking at facilitating a good relationship between you and your dog. And the good news is we already naturally know how to do this. We're also animals who like to, well, maybe I should, some people don't think we're animals, but we are also creatures who like to live in groups, and we get dogs because it's such a satisfying thing for us. So you're going to do well. You might just have to tweak a thing or two that comes naturally to you. Just sort of like I have to tweak not screaming and losing my mind every time my niece falls down when she's learning to walk. She's going to be okay, Bev. You're making it worse by that behavior. So build trust and don't just train the behavior, but really look at how you can help your dog even out on walks, even when there's a scary thing on TV, even when there's, you know, whatever it is. You know, the next door neighbor decides to, oh my God, my next door neighbor decided to have a bouncy house when, where the kids jump in and it was, it was very funny. I couldn't figure out what was going on with my dog, but one Saturday afternoon, I see him just losing his mind and I look out and there's this bouncy house. There's children screaming, which is, they don't have children next door. So there's children screaming, and above the fence line, what you see is this dragon's head jumping up and down. Like that was the top of the bouncy house. And he's like losing his mind. And I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, from his perspective, I totally get that. That sounds like some monster is happening and probably killing people next door. And so we close the curtains and we go and sit down, and maybe we did some training after, you know,
there's something, you can rationalise with your dog, isn't there? But a bouncy castle, don't think you can you? It's really interesting because, you know, and you'll know this from being a dog, you know, being a dog owner yourself. Like when you think back about how you used to do things 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, you know loads, but you know loads more now, don't you? My old dog Daisy, she was a rescue and she was on the streets and stuff, so she definitely had an insecure attachment, and she was wild, and if she'd seen a bouncy castle, that would have just been her excuse to be crazy for at least 3 days. But yeah, we just don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on with them, but yeah, the world is you know, a strange place for them, isn't it? And I like what you've shared about the trust going 2 ways, because I think often, like, remember, I know you know this anyway, but I'm, you know, just a regular dog owner. I'm not a pet professional. So I always think, can I trust my dog not to do things, but, you know, not to run off or run in the road or whatever. But actually that trust comes back to me as well. And can he trust me to be there if something horrible happens to him or something? And it's really important, isn't it? So it's really interesting to look at this as an approach as something that we think about as caregivers to humans, and how that applies to dogs. So it's a really, really interesting topic. I'd love to know, like, what your goal is ultimately. Well, like, what's the goal as a dog owner or dog guardian when it comes to creating this secure attachment and creating the desired attachment.
Yeah. So if we're looking at, you know, we definitely want what I want to be for my dogs as a pet owner, not as a pet professional, is I want, when that boom happened 2 doors down, I want my dog looking around and then looking back at me.
Yeah.
That's That's what I want. I want that dog checking in with me and going, "Hey, is this okay?" Instead of making the decision that this is definitely not okay, and I'm either out of here or I'm on attack mode. I'm looking for that. That's the goal. I really want, for humans, for me personally, and for other dog owners, I want to be acknowledging that our dogs are emotional creatures,
Mhm.
and they attach to us just like children do, and because we've chosen to have them, that's we are responsible for setting up safe environments for them, and we're responsible for actually acknowledging their emotions and understand. So what I my goal is, can you read your dog's body language and tell when they're a little bit concerned about something? Do you know how to regulate your own emotions so that you don't overreact? I mean, obviously, if your dog's being attacked, or you're being attacked, frankly, those emotions are valid when you're actually not safe. But a lot of those things are your dog trying to figure out, are they safe? And often they are. They just, so let's help them when they really are safe, learn to check in with you and be okay, and go back out. I want the goal. I want to be, imagine, and this is actually Daniel Mill's analogy, but
Yeah.
it's something that it's common to all of us, is, child falls down, instead of doing what I do, which is, "Ah, oh my God," or, "Are you okay? I hope you didn't break your leg. What if something terrible happened?" Instead, of doing that, child comes back to the caregiver. Caregiver gives the boo-boo a kiss and sends the child back out to play. And
Yeah.
the child goes and enjoys the rest of the day. So the child hasn't learned, we don't, parks are dangerous, or never go down the slide again, or whatever it is. Child learns, oh no, that this is just part of life. Sometimes scary, unfortunate, not fun things happen, and we just, instead of having this huge emotional spike of how terrible it was, we're gonna roll with the punches and move on, and have a good rest of the day. And
Yeah.
so that's the goal. That's really the goal, is recognize that there was an injury, there something happened, there was a little blip, and it's okay. We're gonna move on, and the rest of our day isn't ruined. The rest of our life isn't ruined. Parks aren't ruined. 4th of July doesn't have to be, or New Year's Day. I'm sure in UK you have your own
Yeah.
fireworks experiences or whatever, but they don't, every thunderstorm doesn't have to be a major, the world is coming to an end kind of event. It is, these are just things that happen, and we're safe and okay when they do.
Thank you. Um, no, it's a really good message, and it's, about, I guess it's about resilience, isn't it? And helping them know that they can feel safe, with you, and obviously with you with them most of the time, but with you and without you, isn't it?
Right. Isn't it interesting that carries over to even when you're not around? I mean, my mom's secure attachment to me means that when I meet people, I can look at them in the eye, shake their hand, and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm excited to meet you. I'm happy to
Yeah,
talk to you about this stuff." So,
definitely. No, I
but
love
she's not
that.
with me all the time.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is it, isn't it? That would be weird, wouldn't it? I'm still laughing about the about the bouncy castle in the next door garden, though. That is very funny. I mean, there are some things that you just need to go, "Oh, I can't even try to explain this." Um, but yes, like with children, it would be the same, wouldn't it? But Beverly, it's been so brilliant chatting to you, and getting an understanding of this, as a dog owner who wants to do right and not be a helicopter dog mum. Tell us about where people can. I know you work remotely, don't you? So you work with people all over the
Yeah.
world, but where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, check out my, there's so I work with people virtually. That's actually the best way to work with separation anxiety, because I can be an eye in your house, watching exactly what's happening in real time when we're doing our training together. And I'm not an actual being there. So that is really fantastic. We can use the technology we have to do that. So I do assessments with folks. I do coaching for separation related behaviors cases. I have full programs that help with all of that, or small programs that we can just look and see, is it a problem? So this is really good stuff. people can find that kind of information about me, and just tips and fun free resources basically on my website, headoverheelsreno.com. And you can find me on my social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. And you can even sign up on my website. You can sign up for my newsletter, and where I send out regular tips and resources to help with to cover things like, hey, how does attachment theory relate to this, or and those kinds of things. I'm always looking. Lately, I've been looking at sleep, dogs and sleep, and so that's another thing I'm looking at. So I love, there's lots of free stuff that people can get. You don't have to work with me to do it, but I love. But it's just my passion is to help people and their dogs be comfortable together and be comfortable apart.
Love that. Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. And I will put all of the links to everything that you mentioned as well in the article that goes with this recording, so people can go and grab them. But thank you so much, Beverly. It's great to chat.
Thank you, Rachel. We had a lot. This is fun.
Thank you.